What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well, and as usual, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to click here on another video, where today we're going to be talking about one of my most highly anticipated A24 films of the year, and that film is called Eternity. Directed by David Freyne, this film stars people like Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, Callum Turner, Divine Joy Randolph, and more. In full transparency, I was really hoping to get the review up for this film a lot sooner. Actually, about a month ago, I got the opportunity to attend an early press screening for this film, but unfortunately had to miss it due to my day job, which unfortunately got in the way of me attending the screening. And so then I was like, all right, I'll just watch it when it gets a traditional release. And then the kind folks over at A24, the day that it released, sent me over a digital screener, which is how I watched the film. But then yesterday, as of filming this, was Thanksgiving, and I didn't really want to spend the holidays dealing with making content, and I also figured most of you guys are not going to care to be watching videos on the day that you're going to spend time with your family. So here we are now with my review for Eternity, a film I've been incredibly excited to check out. And I should also add, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing so that things like the day job can no longer get in the way of me being at a gate, blah, 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 blah. And I think I should also say that if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing to the channel so that things like the day job do not get in the way of my ability to attend these early press screenings. With all that said, as usual, let's get into what this film is all about, and then we'll get into my thoughts on the film. Eternity follows Joan and Larry Cutler, a newly deceased couple played by Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller, who find themselves in their younger versions of their bodies as they're in an in-between in the afterlife called The Junction, where they are given 1 week to choose their permanent eternity and who they're going to spend it with. Things become really complicated though when Joan's original husband, Luke, played by Callum Turner, appears, and turns out he's been waiting there for decades to go into eternity with her. So the question is, does she spend eternity with the husband that she's built a life with, or does she go into eternity with the husband that she never got a chance to live a life with? And I'm really happy to start this off by saying I really enjoyed this film, and it easily became one of my favorite films I've seen in 2025. We hear the comment all the time that films are either sequels, remakes, or just reimaginings of stories we've already seen. And while we have certainly had all kinds of spins on the afterlife kind of storyline, I think that Eternity does a really great job of being a fresh idea, and I think it explores that idea really well. There's only one big gripe I have with this film, and honestly, when I went on Letterboxd and saw some of my other peers who had reviewed it, I saw a mix of some middling reviews, and frankly, I just can't agree. I thought Eternity was tons of fun. It kept me glued from beginning to end, and as somebody is now married and has been with my wife for 11 years, I was really able to kind of put myself into the place of both main men in this story that are dealing with this situation. I thought the cast was great. I thought it was incredibly relatable. I thought it was very funny at times. And I just thought more than anything, it was unique. In a world where we get so many films that just feel so redundant and so predictable, while this film does have its predictabilities, I do appreciate that it's a film that has an idea and they go for it. And there was things in my mind as things were happening that made me think, well, what about this and what about that? And I think for the most part, this film tackled those things where my mind went to. It tackled the idea and kind of allowed you to explore this concept without it feeling like, oh, I wish they had done this or I wish they had done that. I do have one gripe about the end of the film, and I'll get into that in just a little bit without any spoilers, but all in all, I really enjoyed Eternity. And when it comes down to filmmaking immediately, I enjoyed the way the film looks, the way the film sounds. I'd be lying to you if I said it was doing anything substantial in the cinematography or sound design department. This is definitely a film that shines a little bit more when it comes down to lighting and costume design and the setting, especially in this location called The Junction, where in a lot of ways kind of feels like something that you would have seen like in the Loki TV show or something like Men in Black. It's a office space kind of location where they're given the opportunity to kind of go into a convention fair and learn about all the different afterlives. But I thought this was a lot of fun. It was very silly. It was tongue-in-cheek. It poked fun at religions and different kinds of ideologies, but also kind of recognizes that some people just want to live those afterlives anyway, so those are options to go through. And all in all, I think it had fun with the idea of the afterlife, but more than anything, had a really fun, relatable, romantic story at the center of it, something that I think a lot of people can really relate to. As somebody who's married now and has been with my wife overall, including before we were married for 11 years now, there was a part of my brain that was like, man, I couldn't imagine being in the situation where, you know, my wife maybe had somebody before me and now I have to kind of like battle them out, you know, kind of thing. But on the flip side, I couldn't imagine if I died tomorrow and my wife remarried somewhere down the line, and then I'm in the afterlife and I have the chance to go into eternity with her, but now she's spent the next few decades with somebody else that has a little bit more recency love with her and has more, experience in the long run, And so I think this film creates a dynamic that's really interesting. And all of this is elevated by a great cast. Elizabeth Olsen is fantastic in this film, and I think she really does a great job of having a great sense of humor about what's going on, but carrying a lot of the emotional weight of the story as well. Callum Turner does an incredible job of just being that charming original husband. He's got the look, the feel to him, and Miles Teller brings a great sense of humor, but also arrogance as this husband who's already, he was old when he died. They're old when they die, and then when they go to this world, the junction, they become the version of themselves that was the happiest. So they're younger, they look good. And so there's this part like where you're getting to see a crotchety old man in a younger person's body, which is something I really enjoyed. I thought the cast was great. I thought they all really captured that well. But all in all, I thought something that was really cool is that they all kind of have to play like older people in a lot of ways. Callum Turner has to play somebody who was younger, but in an older time. He died in the war, so it's one of those things where he's not playing like a modern day young guy. He's kind of got to have a bit of an old soul vibe to him, but he never grew old, so there's still a youth to him. Whereas you have people like Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller in the film who are playing people who died at older ages, so they kind of have to play older people in these younger bodies, and I thought they captured all of that really well. And all in all, I just thought that the journey and the humor around it and her trying to figure out who to go with was just so realistic in a lot of ways. It is definitely living in a bit of a heightened, sillier reality, but I think all in all, I think it's something that a lot of people could definitely relate to. Like I said, it's definitely something that got my brain going, and I really enjoyed the ping pong battle that this film is in a lot of ways when it comes down to where her love is going to go. And ultimately, I found the end of the film to be, though predictable at times, really compelling. It was something that I could really relate to and connect to in so many ways, and I think they do a good job of giving all three of these main characters moments to shine in a way that just really worked for me and ultimately left me leaving the film with a smile on my face. Then you also have great side characters, most notably the character of Anna, played by Divine Joy Randolph. She is one of their afterlife coordinators in the film, specifically Miles Teller's, which I thought was a cool idea, right? You have like this Men in Black style place called the Junction, and everybody gets an afterlife coordinator who's meant to kind of send them off into eternity. And I thought that she was a great kind of comedic bit to the film, but also somebody who was able to emotionally connect to the dynamic that's happening. At first, she just kind of wants to push Miles Teller off into whatever eternity he wants to go to so that she can get on to the next person that's dead. But over time, she starts to kind of really connect to this story and connect to the romance happening here, and that you have two different coordinators who are dealing with the two different husbands, and they both want to see them go on to happiness. So there's a bit of a rivalry thing there, but also a great sense of humor around it. But then they also start to just see the real emotional core of it all. So I think all in all, the side characters in this film are fun. The world that it takes place in is fun. And then there are practical locations, because when they go to these places in these eternities, places like beaches or places with beautiful mountains and different things like that, where they're able to kind of shoot on location that's all beautiful to look at, and the cinematography is very lush there. The color grading of the film is very lush in those moments. So all in all, I think the film is very well made. It's very well acted. It has a really relatable story at the center of it. It has a great cast at the center of it, and an ending that I think most people are going to feel really satisfied with. With that said, my biggest gripe would be the ending, because there are rules in this junction. There are rules about going into eternities and leaving said eternities, and what happens if somebody leaves an eternity. And so the way that the film wrapped up, while it was very nice and very satisfying in a lot of ways, there was something about the rules at this point that the film had set up that I did feel was broken. And I think that because there were so many interesting rules about how the afterlife works in this film, and some of the hoops they have to jump through in order to kind of deal with the situation they're dealing with here, I do feel like the way that they chose to end the film, again, while satisfying, did leave me wondering, okay, did we just break one of the cardinal rules that this film set up? So that was a little bit of a gripe, where it's like, why set up all those rules if you're going to end it like this? But all in all, though, I still found Eternity to be a lot of fun. I think this is a film that many people are really going to be able to enjoy. If you're a sucker for a good rom-com and you like a good fun afterlife story, something that plays with a new fresh idea and understands what it is, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with Eternity. And more than anything, if you like these 3 stars in this film, they all show up to play, and I found myself just really engaged in the back and forth, the dialogue, The performances were both fun but emotional and raw, and I think they just fully understood the assignment. And I just think when I look at the slew of A24 films that have come out this year, there's been some really good stuff, and I think this is definitely within the really great stuff that I've seen this year. So yeah, like I said, I saw some different opinions on Letterboxd, so I'm sure maybe I'm not necessarily going to be the majority opinion, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. How did you feel about Eternity? How did you not feel about Eternity? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Whatever the case may be, leave any and all comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys subscribe for more reviews like this. Bye-bye.